Man, oh man, shit's getting spicy and juicy. Things are getting juicy and spicy all at the same time, man. A lot of flavors. Hard for my palate to be able to decipher how it's supposed to feel right now. Got shame on you if you step to the old dirty Beckham. Making a decision after being told he's going to take a little while to kind of decide what the next move is going to be. I don't want to rush into this. Let's let these games play. I'm still being paid this year. I'll be fine. He makes a decision. Cameron Newton. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. Nope, it's number one. And Cam is his name. Super Cam. He's back where it all started. It was funny because a while ago, he was told he couldn't go home. And you know when he heard that? When he was back home. Should be a hell of a podcast. And you guys are going to get to take over the show. Start lining up your comments right now. We'll get to social media maneuvers a little bit later on in the show, but you already know what this is. It's the 222nd Triple Deuces installment of the Louie T Network podcast that starts now. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 222nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Wow is how we start off today's show. Lot to get to, a lot of excitement. I love when we have these types of days, and it seems like we've been having more of these days this season than in the past. Normally, these happen in the offseason. They don't happen during the season. We've had like 2 or 3 of these because it seems like a lot of guys are getting released or guys are getting traded, and these big news item days are coming down the pipeline at us. And so we'll take them as they come. Here's another one of those days. So I don't want to delay. I want to get straight to the proceedings this evening. You know what it is. Let's get to the gym dropping session, shall we? Yeah, I think we shall. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So the initial podcast direction was we're going to talk about Cam Newton for about a good 10, 15 minutes and him going back to Carolina. But now he's got to share. He's got to share the gym dropping session spotlight. All right. So we'll start with Cam Newton, and then we'll work our way to the latest and the biggest news of the day, which is Odell Beckham Jr. Making his decision and heading out to LA to join forces with the Rams. Let's talk Cam Newton first. There are so many different layers to this, especially for Washington fans, because I already know what's going to happen. And I fear this because I know my fan base. I know what they're going to do. I know how this is going to go. And it's not going to end well for Washington, especially because I said it would be symmetry. It would literally be ironic if Cam Newton signs with the Panthers and right before we have to play them, obviously, go figure, right? He'll play this week more likely than not. This is why they signed him. Sam Darnold on the shelf for 4 to 6 weeks. Worst thing that could happen to us is him getting injured because he stinks. And we would have beat them with him at quarterback. Now with Cam, I don't know. We'll see. And Washington fans, there were a small sector, not a huge sector, but a small sector, big enough to make some noise, that wanted Cam Newton in Washington. And I'm like, yeah, nah, he's good. We're good. He's washed. And if he goes to Carolina and they beat us next week, which is definitely a possibility, we're going to have to hear those fans' mouth, especially if he plays well. Now, if they beat us and we stink and he stinks, then you're like, okay, there's nothing here to see. But if he plays well, they beat us, yeah, they're going to come out of the woodworks. But this is not about Washington. This is about Carolina. This is about David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, acknowledging that it's pretty bad in Carolina right now. And we don't want to start any of the quarterbacks that we currently have on the roster. So Why not call up an old friend? And my wife was perusing socials earlier, and she read something to me that was hilarious. And she said that someone on Facebook said that the Panthers essentially sent Cam Newton the biggest "Hey big head" text of all. Okay, like it was the funniest thing that I had heard all day. You know, somebody you haven't talked to, especially if it's an ex, in a long time, and you text them or you hit them up. You know, you message them, "Hey big head, how you doing?" and essentially the Panthers like, "Hey, big head, how you doing?" And Cam's like, "Yo, I'm chilling, I'm living life. What's good with y'all?" Oh man, we've been better. So, you in shape? Cam's like, "I'm always in shape, man. This doesn't change." Yeah, that's good to know. We need you to come in for a workout. We're kind of struggling over here at quarterback. He's like, "Yeah, I noticed. I've been keeping tabs." "Oh, is that right?" "Yeah, that's right." So, well, how soon can you get here? "Well, I'm just right up the street." "We figured that. The sooner the better. We'll see you in a little bit." And Cam uh, got over to the facility. They saw he was in shape, better than Philip Walker. You know, better than the alternatives that exist on their roster at this current moment, and decided to pull the trigger. And so the former league MVP, Cameron Newton, who essentially was pushed out of Carolina. I didn't know if the relationship between the organization and Cam Newton was still one that was amicable enough for him to want to come back. Now, again, when you say these things, you also have to keep into consideration Cam felt pushed out of Carolina the first time he left. So if we're going back in time, the Panthers tried to make it seem as if, hey, you know, Cam is kind of wanting out. We kind of want out. We've given Cam Newton permission to seek a trade. Cam's like, no. Let's not try to make this thing seem like this is a mutual agreement to part ways. I want to be here. You want me gone. Okay. Don't try to make this out to me wanting to seek a trade. You want me gone. So I thought that it didn't end on the best of terms. It wasn't the worst of terms. It wasn't like this bridge was completely burned and that there was no way that this relationship could be repaired. But it felt like it was a little sour when it ended. And credit to David Tepper for being not having the biggest of egos. We know every owner, every person in the position of a David Tepper has an ego. You know, every player in the league, every coach in the league has an ego. But it magnifies, and I think it gets bigger when you're in the position of a David Tepper with the kind of money that he has and the kind of power that he's able to wield. And for him to say, you know what, didn't end on the best terms, probably wouldn't be in this position if we had, you know, our guy Sam Darnold playing well, or we had a quarterback here that we, you know, liked and that was healthy. But that's not where we're at right now. We need a guy, and I don't know what they're looking to salvage. You know, their season isn't done. Obviously, they've won, I think, 4 games this season. They're right in the thick of things in the NFC playoff chase for that 7th seed. We've talked about this already. It's wide ass open. And so with a win, you know, a couple of weeks ago at Atlanta, it kept them right in the thick of things. So they're not punting on the season. That's what this move says. If they were punting on the season, if they were 2-7 right now, they would be punting on the season, but they're not. And because they have won 4 games and they're 4-5 right now, they're like, why not us? And maybe Cam Newton gives us the spark that we need, the shot in the arm that we need. So I've talked so much about Joe Brady, and I've had people, you know, most notably my guy Sindeko say, hey, Joe Brady isn't the genius you think he is. Matt Rule stinks too. The only guy that we really love is Scott Fitterer, the GM. Everybody else stinks right now. He may be right. And we'll see, you know, what ultimately becomes of the situation in Carolina. I'm a Matt Rule guy. I'm a Joe Brady guy. But this has not been a great year for them. And I thought things were heading in the right direction. And even as I say that, this Panthers team is 4-5, and they continue to be in ball games. They don't win them, but they continue to find themselves in ball games despite some of the worst quarterback play in the league. Before his injury, their starting quarterback, Sam Darnold, had the most turnovers of any quarterback in the league. So they've done a lot of good things despite the quarterback position, not because of it. So when I look at the situation, it could be a lot worse. Granted, their schedule was soft. They still had to go out and win those games, and they did. They're 4-5. And so when I look at what they've done and I look at the situation that they've been put in, I say, hey, not as bad as it could be. Some of that is coaching. Some of it is luck. Some of it is a confluence of the two, but you need both in this league. And now they go get Cam Newton. Now they give themselves a chance. And I don't think he'll be ready to really, truly affect the game this week. There's only so much you can do when you sign a guy on Thursday. There's only so much you can implement. But he'll go out there. You know, they'll do some basic things. They'll run some read option. They'll do the things that Cam's comfortable with doing. Next week is when I think you'll start to see a little bit more of this thing open up again. Go figure, against Washington, right? But I think that's when you'll start to see a lot of this stuff start to open up. Cam start to be more comfortable, and they start to utilize all of his skill set and then some of the players around him. Christian McCaffrey's getting healthier, so it's going to make that read option that much more dangerous when Cam can pull it and run, or he can give it to Christian McCaffrey. Now you pick your poison, whereas before, who gives a shit if Sam Darnold pulls it and decides he wants to run? Knock yourself out, Sam. So it makes a lot of what they do offensively a lot more dangerous. Still don't think Cam's the passer that he once was. Still think there are limitations there with him. And we'll see what happens. But it's nice to see Cam Newton back in Carolina. Guess who's Bizzack? It's good to see him back, man, where he needs to be. I mean, a lot of times with us as fans, we get used to seeing a player in one spot for a long time, and that player is synonymous with that one locale. And for Cam Newton, no matter where he went after Carolina, which it wasn't very long that he stayed in New England, it didn't matter where he went. He was always going to be a Carolina Panther. That's how we were always going to remember him. So it'll be interesting to see how this second act goes, because in sports, it's rare that you get a second act with a player that was with one organization for as long as Cam Newton was with the Panthers, and you get it this soon, and with that player not coming back to sign like a one-day contract, or on the last year of his career coming back and signing a one-year deal to play with that team and not really being a key contributor. Like, this guy can still help this Panthers team. It'd be amazing if they made it to the postseason with Cam Newton after him being ousted out of Carolina, them struggling to find a guy to replace him coming back and essentially being the savior again. That would be one hell of a story. Now, I don't know if it's going to go that way. I don't think it's going to go that way, because I don't think Cam Newton has a ton left in the tank. But the tank isn't empty. It's not on E. So we'll see what happens. It's an interesting dynamic. I want to see what Joe Brady does. I've been talking up Joe Brady and how good of a offensive mind he is, and I've been giving him all of this credit, and this offense this year has looked atrocious at times. I want to see how he adjusts his play calling to the skill set of Cam Newton. He's not Sam Darnold, okay? He's not Joe Burrow, okay? He's not some of the guys that he's not Drew Brees, obviously. These are some of the quarterbacks that Joe Brady has worked with over the last 5 years of his career. I want to see how he takes what he does, what Cam Newton does, what Christian McCaffrey does, what some of the players on the offense does, and he melds it together and makes it mesh as one. I want to see how he's able to take the skill set of a Cam Newton and make it an offense that can be more sustainable than the one they had with Sam Darnold that was a train wreck and a mess week after week after week after week. So the jury's still out on Joe Brady and that Panthers offense. This is going to be pretty telling to me. If they can start to get to some semblance of, consistency on offense, even if it's not going to result in a ton of points, if they can get to some semblance of consistency with Cam Newton stabilizing that offense, not turning it over, because that defense is still good in Carolina. And they're getting better with some of the pieces that they're getting back. Like they just got Stephon Gilmore back. He's had 2 interceptions in each of the 2 games that he's played with the Carolina Panthers. Like they're getting better defensively. At some point, they're going to get J.C. Horn back, I think, this season. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like his injury wasn't a season ender. And so they're getting better. They're getting healthier now. I think they lost Brian Burns to an ankle. You know, that was a controversy there with the whole Mac Jones situation. And was it a dirty play or not? It looked dirty, but you know, whatever. I can't try to know what someone's intent is, you know? So in any event, when I look at the Panthers, I say it's a great move. What do you got to lose? You got nothing to lose. Your quarterback situation is terrible. Sam Darnold is hurt, which is probably a blessing in disguise. You're 4-5. Your season is not over. The NFC, back end of the NFC is wide open in terms of making the postseason. Why the hell not? Why the hell not? I love this. I love Cameron Newton being back in Carolina, and this will be a storyline the remainder of the season. I was questioning just a week ago. I said, is his career over? I think I was doing a card video, and I came across one of his cards, and I said, is his career over? You know, I was just asking the viewers out there watching the Card Collector series, is his career over? Well, we got our answer today. No, it's not over. And maybe this could be a rejuvenation of sorts. You know, if he plays well enough, you know, because this is just a contract for the remainder of this year. You know, $4.5 million with incentives. I'm assuming some of those incentives are they make the postseason. He plays well enough and gives them a chance, and X amount of snaps the remainder of the way. He can make upwards of $10 million this year. It's just for the remainder of this season. So if he plays well enough, he could be back in Carolina. Obviously, that's on the table. Or he could be auditioning for the other 31 teams in the league as to whether he needs another shot in this league. He said last year on I Am Athlete, I can't go out like that. You know, the situation in New England was dreadful. He was benched 87 times. He's like, I can't go out like that. Well, getting cut by the Patriots in a surprise move right before the start of the season wasn't his idea of going out. Now he's getting an opportunity to write his own ending. Is the ending this year in Carolina where it all started? Or is he going to earn himself some bonus football on the back end of his career, either in Carolina for the foreseeable future or elsewhere? Interesting stuff. But all we know now is the Carolina Panthers aren't punting on the season. And guess who's Bizzack? Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to Cameron Newton. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. Nope. It's number 1. And Cam is his name. Super Cam. See if he can be Super Cam once again for old time's sakes. And then we switch gears to the bombshell that just dropped less than an hour ago. The LA Rams pushing all their chips. We talked about this already. All right. They going in. They going in. Rams going in. The Rams are going in. All in on Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl or bust this year. Von Miller's on a 1-year deal. Odell Beckham Jr.'s on a 1-year deal. It's absolutely this year or it's not happening for the Rams. They've essentially said, league, we're going in. We're going for the gusto. We don't know if we're going to get it, but damn it, we're going to die trying. And this is effectively turned into an arms race. Okay? Sort of like, what this feels like is what the Buccaneers did last year. Buccaneers went and got the quarterback in Tom Brady, and then they went out and got every single piece imaginable to add to that roster to give them a chance to win the Super Bowl, and it ultimately paid off. They went out, got Brady, and then after Brady, they got Fournette. They ended up going and getting Shady McCoy. They ended up going, and Shady wasn't a big part of their Super Bowl, obviously, but they went and got him anyway. He played some snaps. They went and got Gronk. They went and got Antonio Brown. All right, and the pieces just kept coming and coming and coming for that Buccaneers football team. Now, they drafted really well, and those young guys in the secondary stepped up. But they made a bunch of moves to really make Tom Brady feel at home and to give them the best chance to win. Felt like an arms race that the Buccaneers won last year. This year, it feels like an arms race that the Rams are saying, no one's out arms in us. Okay, we're going to have guns and shit. We don't know if these weapons are going to go brat, brat when it's time for them to go rat-tat-tat-tat in the playoffs. We don't know. We don't know what Odell Beckham Jr. is going to do in the playoffs. He hasn't been that many times. We don't know what Matthew Stafford is going to do when it comes playoff time. He hasn't really done it that often. Okay, we don't know how much Von Miller has left in the tank, but we know they got guns and shit. They got all the weapons they could ask for. They've added every single tool that they think they need to get over the hump this year. So now the defense is a star-studded crew led by Aaron Donald. Never, ever trust a man with two first names. You know, co-starring Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, and Gumby. Okay? Leonard Floyd. They've got all kinds of weapons on defense now. Okay? Now you go to the offensive side, and it was somewhat lacking over there. I love Cooper Kupp. The best part of waking up, the Rams, Cooper Kupp. I love me some Cooper Kupp. I think that the weapons that they have on offense are solid. Cooper Kupp is a back end of the league #1 wide receiver. That might be disrespectful. He might be more of a middle of the road #1 in this league. He's a #1 now. Robert Woods, to me, is the best #2 that money can buy. He's a quality #2, does all the dirty work. He will go over the middle of the football field. He gets run after the catch. They use him like a running back, jet sweep here, jet sweep there. They use him like a fullback. They have him lead blocking. They have him coming and cracking on the edge of the line. They got him coming and taking on 270-pound defensive ends and blocking them in the run game head on. He does everything. Love it. Now they have a legitimate, we think, because we haven't seen that guy, the Odell Beckham Jr. from the Giants. We haven't seen that guy in ages. We'll see if we get the old dirty Beckham back. Shame on you if you step to the old dirty Beckham. We'll see if we're getting that dude back or not. But one thing's for sure, the Rams are assuming that they're going to get the best version of Odell Beckham Jr. and they're going to get him the football. So you add Stafford, you add Odell Beckham Jr., you add Sony Michel, you add all of these pieces to what was already a solid Rams offense. Now let's see what we get. Now let's see what the Rams look like. The Rams aren't playing around. They're not bullshitting, okay? They're looking to win a Super Bowl this year. Again, they said they want to re-sign Von Miller after this season's over. It's cool to say that now. What are they supposed to say? Nah, let's just see what happens. They could have said that. You know what makes Von Miller feel even better? If you say, hey, we would love to re-sign Von in the offseason. That makes Von feel like this could be my home. That's what you should say. But in the reality of the situation is, this is a one-year rental with Von Miller and Odell Beckham Jr. So you better win the chip this season. And you know what that does? If you do win it, it makes everybody want to come back. And you may even get a few guys willing to take a little less to make it happen. Just like in Tampa. Everybody said, you know what, man, this was fun. Yo, let's run this back. Let's stay on the court, man. Winner stays. Let's stay on the court. And we're going to keep trying to do these dudes in until somebody knocks us off. So everybody decided to come back. Let's run it back. If you win the chip, maybe Odell Beckham Jr. says, I'll sign another one-year deal. Maybe Von Miller says, I'll sign a 3-year deal to stay here and take a little bit less than he could have gotten elsewhere. Same thing with Odell Beckham Jr. Just to see if they could do it again. Who knows? But you got to win it first. You know how hard it is to win a Super Bowl? That's the reason we haven't had a back-to-back Super Bowl winner since the Patriots did it back in 2002 and 2003. Or 2003 and 2004. I think 2002 was the Bucks. 2003 and 2004. They won it in 2001. Bucks slid in 02. Patriots won it in 03 and 04. We haven't had a back-to-back Super Bowl winner since 03, 04. Why? You might go to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row like the Patriots have done, like the Chiefs have done now with 2 years in a row. You may go, but you ain't winning this shit every year. It's tough. It's a lot. It's a grind. It's a war of attrition. 1 year you're healthy. The next year you can't buy a healthy body. Ask the 49ers. They went from Super Bowl dominant defense in 19 to they can't stay healthy on defense. They can't stay healthy on offense. It's part of the reason they're in the position that they're in right now. Can't stay healthy. It's tough in this league to do it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And the Rams are just trying to do it once. But I'm telling you right now, they're giving themselves a chance. They're putting themselves in the best position possible by making this move. Now, here's the thing. A lot of different personalities. Matthew Stafford hasn't always been the most efficient. I wonder if the ass whooping that they just sustained at the hands of the Titans prompted them to do this. If they beat the Titans 31-13 on Sunday night, do they make this move? I wondered, the first thing that I thought about, because it's funny, I had a conversation with my buddy the other day, and we were talking about where Odell Beckham Jr. would land. And, you know, I told you the Packers blew my mind. Someone had thrown out Packers. I think it was my buddy. And that blew my mind. I hadn't even thought of that, you know. I was thinking about Vegas. I even brought up the Chargers, the wrong LA team. I said, you know, the Chargers have some really good receivers. But you know what would take them over the top? A guy like Odell Beckham Jr. You know, but that's not their MO of Tom Telesco, their GM. That's not how he's wired. You know, Chargers fans are begging for him to just make some subtle moves that requires to give up some draft capital or trade for a guy or pay someone. They just want him to make the smallest of moves, and he won't even do that. They clearly know they need an upgrade on the defensive line, stopping the run. They haven't done it. That's nor here nor there. The bottom line is we had all these conversations about where he could end up, and the Rams weren't one of those teams. And then, you know, I look at the ass whooping that they sustained on Sunday night, and because that was an ass whooping. That was a thorough beatdown at the crib. And that's the second time they've got their asses handed to them at home this season. You know, both of their losses have been blowout losses at home. And that got me to thinking, I wonder if they say, you know, this isn't good enough. We need more. And you keep saying, well, damn, how much more do you need? This is not enough. We need more. Well, they added Von Miller. He didn't play yet. Hasn't played yet. They're thinking he can play this week. But we need more. So they add in Odell Beckham Jr. How much more do you need to add to the pot before it tastes good enough for you to decide this is good enough for us to get to a Super Bowl? What they've done this year makes what the Buccaneers did last year look like child's play. You know, the Buccaneers were adding all of these, what we felt like were modest pieces. Like Gronk, how much does Gronk really have left? Antonio Brown, we know he can be AB, but he's not AB right now. He's been AB this season. He was Antonio Brown last year. They're adding dudes, and just same thing. Odell Beckham Jr. right now, he is Odell Beckham Jr. He's not OBJ. He's not ODB. He's Odell Beckham Jr. When you play the way he's been playing, when you can't stay healthy, when you're dropping open passes, when you're not making plays, we use your entire government name here on the Louie T Network. He's Odell Beckham Jr. right now. Antonio Brown wasn't AB last year. He was Antonio Brown. We use your whole government. Maybe he turns back into OBJ. Maybe he turns back into ODB. But right now, he's Odell Beckham Jr. So I'm interested to see how all of this comes together, because it's a lot of personalities you're dealing with now. You know, Jalen Ramsey can be a head case at times. He almost got thrown out of the game on Sunday night. Couldn't control himself. The officials went NBA on me and decided in game they were going to change one of the calls. The official reported the first one as an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. He didn't call it personal foul, unnecessary roughness. He called it unsportsmanlike conduct. Then they called another one on his ass and then went back like they do in the NBA and say, no. We didn't call the first one a technical foul. The first one was a flagrant foul. Okay, this is his first technical because you don't want to throw stars out of the game. Had Jalen Ramsey been Jalen Thomas, his ass would have been gone. They would have tossed him. Anyway, he could be a head case at times. Okay. Von Miller's a good dude. I haven't heard any issues, haven't seen anything with Von Miller on the sideline having blowups, but we know Odell Beckham Jr. can be that guy. We know Aaron Donald is a Looney Tunes. I mean, he is definitely one taco short of a combination play. We know this to be a fact. Aaron Donald doesn't give a shit about getting thrown out of a game. He's been thrown out of games before, and he'll do it again. All you got to do is hit him in his face, and he loses his shit. Can you make all of this come together under one roof? This shit is combustible. If anybody can do it, it's Sean McVay. But boy, the Rams are putting a lot of ingredients in this pot. Let's hope that this shit doesn't blow up. It's a witch's brew. We stirring it. Ooh, my witch's brew. They just throwing shit in. OBJ, Von Miller, little Donald too. Throw that in my witch's brew. I got magic, alakazam, kazoo. They just throwing shit in the pot. Well, let's see if this shit is some kind of masterful recipe that's delicious, delicioso. Or is this shit gonna blow up, splatter everywhere in the carnage that it will leave behind on this Rams organization, not just this year, but for years to come. They have mortgaged the future for now. We've heard their head coach, Sean McVay, use the phrase attack success. This is as aggressive as you can get in terms of attacking success. We'll see if they're able to come away with the ultimate prize. They're doing all of this in the name of one thing. And that, of course, is the Lombardi. We'll see if they get it done, but man, they are loaded. Imagine playing with this team on Madden. This feels like when I used to play the game back in the day. This feels like when you say, man, you can't play with them. They a cheat code, man. They cheat. That's cheating. You know, there were teams back in the day when I played Madden. You couldn't play with the Rams, the greatest show on turf Rams. That was cheating. Okay. Back in the Tecmo Bowl days, you can't play with Bo Jackson. That's cheating. This Rams team right now feels like it would be cheating. I don't know how Madden's set up anymore. I don't know how they do it, but this feels like this team would be cheating because they got a quarterback. They got a stud on the defensive line. They got 3 studs on the defensive line now, 2 true studs, and then 1 complimentary stud. They got a defensive back that's the best in football. And then they got 3 really good receivers. One that's elite right now in Cooper Kupp. One that used to be elite that could get back to that status in Odell Beckham Jr. And then a really good complimentary piece in Robert Woods. Like, they're effing loaded. They would be cheating on Madden right now. You can't play with the Rams. That's cheating. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to social media maneuvers because what a day. What another one of these crazy days. I'm glad I didn't do the podcast yesterday. That was the intent. But I would have been missing out on today's fun. All the festivities of today had I done the podcast yesterday. I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, you know, and that's why I didn't do the podcast yesterday because God knew I needed to wait until today. Here we are. Let's do it. Social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. Let's load it up. You got comments? Hopefully I got answers. Let's do it. Hashtag LouieTLive for those of you who aren't familiar. If you want to jump to the front of the line, super chats are the way to do it. Let's get this party started. Social media maneuver style. Let's get to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. See if we got any super chats. If not, we'll get straight to the hashtag comments. And I do have a super chat, and it's from Matthew. Thank you for the super chat, Matthew. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Matthew writes, really happy for Cam, as am I, and hope it works. Carolina's owner is a baller. Teams winning, just look at their owner. You need a good owner in this NFL. I I think he's a really good owner. I do like David Tepper. However, I wouldn't categorize him as a winner right now. He's not a baller. He's a baller from a financial standpoint. He's made some great financial moves, which has put him in a position to own the Carolina Panthers. However, his ownership, he hasn't won yet, but it's not for a lack of trying. He's been willing to spend. We saw the deal that he gave Matt Rule. He went to Matt Rule's home to woo him. And we saw the amount of money. Remember, we were talking about, oh, my God, they're giving this to a first-time head coach in the league. What kind of precedence is he setting by doing this? He doesn't care about any of that. He just wants to win. So whatever resources he needs to divulge to try to get that done, he's willing to do it. But we've seen other owners willing to throw money at what they perceive to be problems. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win. It just means you're willing to spend whatever it takes. But you need to be calculated in the decisions that you make as an owner. Sometimes that means falling back and letting your football guys do what they need to do. But he seems to be heavily involved as David Tepper. We'll see if it works out for him or not. But I want to credit him for making this move for sure. Because, again, as I said, he had to remove his ego in order to make this happen. And I'm not saying that there was the baddest of blood between him, Cam Newton, and his organization when Cam departed, but it wasn't on the best terms. This wasn't a mutual decision to part ways. Cam wanted to stay. They wanted him gone. They wanted to go in a different direction, and he wasn't a part of their future. And for him to reach out and say, hey, look, what's done is done. What happened in the past happened. We've moved forward, and we'd love to give you another chance. I mean, what is Cam going to say? Dude's trying to get back in the league. What is he going to say? Nah, I'll play for any other team but y'all. Nah, even if he had some feelings, even if he had some sour grapes there, and he was in his feelings a bit, he was going to come back regardless, because this is an opportunity to get back in the league. Beggars can't be choosers. It was funny. Somebody said, Robert, would you go back to Washington? You're damn right he would. The man is doing broadcasting right now. You think he won't kill to get back in the league? He didn't give a shit who it's with. He wants back in the league. Same thing with Cam Newton. He wanted to be back in the league. And I couldn't think of a better spot for him to be than here in Carolina. Kudos to their owner for getting it done. My guy, John Perez, writes, Rams going all in while Washington sits on their asses and does nothing. I mean, what do you want them to do? They don't have a quarterback. What you want them to do? The Rams have a quarterback they think they can win a Super Bowl with. Trust me, the Rams wouldn't be doing this with Taylor Heineke at quarterback, okay? They wouldn't be doing all of this with Jared Goff still at quarterback. They're doing this because they think they have a quarterback that can take them all the way. They weren't doing this with Jared Goff. Trust me, if Goff was still their quarterback, they wouldn't have done what they just did to acquire Von Miller and now to go out and get Odell Beckham Jr. They wouldn't have done these things. They're doing this because they have a quarterback that they think they can win a Super Bowl with. Washington doesn't have that, so why would you want them to do anything remotely close to this? That doesn't make any sense. I do have another super chat. It's from the Black Al B. Thank you for the super chat, Black Al B. Greatly appreciate you, my guy, Black Al B. Writes, what it do, Lou? What it do, Black Al B? He says, I need the Rams financial books pulled and shown to the public because how, Sway? How? This is a prime example of how they do it in the NBA, and it's not that different in an NFL locker room, but it's in certain areas, in certain teams, it's a lot different. There's a big disparity. So in the Rams locker room, it's essentially 8 dudes getting broken off, like making some real good money, top dollar in this league. And then the other 45 dudes are making table scraps. They're making crumbs. They're on rookie contracts. They're on league minimums, that kind of thing. So that's how they can afford to do what they're doing. They're paying Stafford. They're paying, let's count them. They're paying Stafford. They're paying Von Miller. They're paying, and again, some of these contracts, some of these dudes that they're paying, some of this has been worked out, like in the case of Von Miller. The Broncos ate most of his remaining deal, what he was paid this year. They essentially said, Rams, you only on the hook for $700,000. So they can afford Von Miller, even though he's a big name. The Broncos said, we'll eat the other $13 million or whatever it was, that Von needs to be paid this year. So the Rams really aren't on the hook for Von Miller, right? Odell Beckham Jr., we don't know the terms of that deal yet. But again, Andrew Whitworth is being paid some good money. Aaron Donald be paying some good money. Matthew Stafford's being paid some good money. Cooper Kupp's being paid some good money. Robert Woods is being paid some good money. Jalen Ramsey is being paid some good money. And they just signed Gumby to some more money, Leonard Floyd. That's 7 dudes. I can't think of another guy on their team that's making real money, right? So everybody else is either on a rookie deal or they're on a league minimum or they're not being paid that much money. And go look at their roster. The rest of that roster is filled out with guys on rookie contracts. That's how you're able to do what the Rams are doing right now. Think about it. And even one of the guys that they thought was good, they wanted to keep in Young, the linebacker, they had to trade him to free up some cap space. So they couldn't make a move like this for Odell Beckham Jr. They were forward thinkers here. The books are out there, though. It's just crazy. But I get what you're saying. I totally understand where you're coming from on that front. It just seems impossible how they're doing this, but they're doing it. Sindeko writes, you don't know how big the flames were in Panther Nation. There was a march planned at the stadium. This was the only option we had. Ego and pride didn't derail this season being salvaged. I didn't realize it gotten that bad, but it needed to, because this team defensively, I think, is good enough to have a shot. They got to do something at quarterback. So maybe he realized, he being the owner, David Tepper, realized this could get really ugly. If they're planning marches and they're really, really frustrated and this thing could turn into a mutiny, we got to do something. And the only thing he could do, that was available to him, mind you, the trade deadline has passed. You're not going to find a quarterback at this point of the season that can make this fan base feel warm and fuzzy inside to quell some of the attacks other than Cam Newton. Like, it was the perfect storm for this to happen. Honestly, if it is as bad as you say it was, that something needed to be done, because obviously Sam Darnold wasn't it. And Philip Walker wasn't going to be the answer either, So there wasn't much that could be done by the way of what was on the roster, but there was only one guy that was really going to make this fan base feel really good. I mean, you couldn't have done this with Robert Griffin III. You still would have felt like, oh my God, we stink. But you bring back Cam Newton and you bring back all the warm and fuzzies, and it gives you a chance this season, because again, that 7th seed, I've already talked about this ad nauseum. It is wide open. Hell, the 6th seed is still within reach for some teams. And the Panthers are one of them, having 4 wins on the season. That 6th seed is still within reach for a team like Carolina. And there are winnable games on the schedule for a team like the Carolina Panthers. Again, I talked about your opponent next week in Washington. That's a very winnable game. And so we'll see what happens. This was a big move by their organization. Maybe his ego was in the way, but because of everything going on, he had to remove his ego and make this thing happen. Sindeko writes, I believe he has plenty of football left in him. He is 100% healthy. He said no one should, or he said, and he should not have COVID, essentially. If he plays well, I have all that smoke for you, as you have been shitting on him for 3 years. I'm ready for all the smoke. If he plays well and he looks like the Cameron Newton of old, because we call people by their government names when they play the way he played last year. If Cameron Newton plays the way that he played last year with the Patriots, and I remember early in that season, he was playing really well, and then he got COVID, and he claimed that was where things went off the rails for him. Whatever the case may be, we'll see. If he plays well, I'm going to give him credit. I want to see him succeed, but I'm going to call a spade a spade. If you stink, I'm going to let you know you stink. Or if I think you're broken and you cannot be repaired, I'm going to say that. And once the injury started to happen, we see this with guys all the time that put their bodies on the line. Eventually, your body starts to break down on you. Cam put his body on the line for this Panthers team for years as a runner, as a physical threat. Eventually, his body started to break down. It's his foot, it's his back, it's his shoulder. Everything started to break down. At some point, you can't be that guy anymore. Yeah, he's 100% healthy now because he hasn't played in any football this year for the most part, and he hasn't taken on any contact. Let's see how his body responds when he gets back out there and he starts taking hits. We'll see. But I'm here for all the smoke. You know I don't back down, and you know where you can find me. Okay? Niners fan writes, got tickets to the upcoming Monday Night Football game before the season started. Little did I know we would absolutely be trash and the Rams would form a super team. Not looking forward to it. At least you get to see the super team the Rams would form up close and personal. You can say, man, they're as good as advertised. You should see Von Miller this week. I don't, think you'll see Odell Beckham Jr. this week. But, I mean, if they could come in there, wide receiver is much different than quarterback, right? Like quarterback, you need to have a working knowledge of what the hell is going on. They can give him a wristband, call a couple of plays he's comfortable with. I think Cam's going to be out there this week. We'll see. He may not be out there this week. He may be out there next week against Washington. But I think he'll be out there this week. That's why they signed him. To have him come in there, be ready, and give them a chance. At receiver, he may only play 15 snaps, and they'll give him some things he knows. It's not hard. Hey, you just run a 9 route on this play, okay? Yeah. Hey, you just block on this play. Hey, you just run a 7 route. Like, that's not hard, right? So we'll see. You should get a little bit of Odell Beckham Jr. this week, but maybe you won't. He just got there. We'll see. But at the end of the day, yeah, you're going to get to see this super team up close and personal, and you'll get to walk away saying, no, they're not all that. Or, shit, the rest of the NFC is in some trouble. So, and with the extra day for the Rams, because it's a Monday night game, I surmise he's going to play this week. We'll see what happens. Sindeko writes, the Cardinals and Kingsbury did the college coach hire right. They hired NFL coaches around him. Rule did the opposite, and it shows. The roster has the most potential Cam ever had. I didn't have a problem with the way he assembled his roster, because a lot of times with coaches, you want to put guys around you, because if you're going to fail, you want to fail with your guys. So you put guys around you that you feel comfortable with. And what Matt Rule was coming to the NFL with a college approach, even though Matt Rule's been in the NFL before, this is a misconception. Unlike Cliff Kingsbury, who had never been a coach in the NFL ranks, Matt Rule had been an NFL coach before with the Giants. So he'd been in the league as an NFL coach. So he kind of knew what this league entailed before taking the job as the Panthers head coach. That said, he felt like, I can bring innovation. I can bring something different to this league, because one thing we've seen in the NFL in the past is that when something different and new comes along, the league doesn't adjust to it right away. It takes a little bit of time for everyone to catch up. And if you get out ahead of that curve and you're the one that's innovative, like with the Wildcat, with the Miami Dolphins, if you're the team that is the one that brings the innovation to the league, you're going to benefit from it the most, because it's going to take everyone else a while, just like Washington with the pistol formation. Really, it was the 49ers with Colin Kaepernick, but they took it to another level with Robert Griffin III and the read option and things that they were doing in the RPOs. They took it to another level, and it took the league a while to catch up to the drift route over the middle of the football field. Hell, the 49ers are still throwing. The Rams are still throwing the damn drift route over the middle of the football field. But that said, when you have that going for you, it takes a little while for everyone else to catch up. Same thing with the Eagles and the RPOs when they won the Super Bowl back in 2018 with Nicholas Foles. It wasn't complex what they were doing. It was just different. And the league had a tough time adjusting. Do we go for the run fake? They're run blocking. Do we attack the run, or do we stay back and let them run the football? What do we do? And so Matt Rule thought, I'm going to bring in Joe Brady. You saw what he did with LSU. He's going to come in here. He's going to light the end. We got all the pieces that LSU had. We got all those pieces. Now, of course, you didn't have the quarterback. That's the biggest piece. But you had Christian McCaffrey. That's a really good starting point, because he was your Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And then you figured, okay, they got DJ Moore. We're going to bring in Robbie Anderson. So we can make this Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase thing happen and surround him with all the pieces that he needs. All right. And this offense will take off. The problem is, got to have the quarterback to make it work. Hasn't had that in Carolina. Maybe you have it now in Cam Newton. Maybe you don't. I don't think you do. Okay. And again, I'm waiting for the smoke. I don't think you do. But we will see what happens. Matt Rule and Joe Brady, I'm not giving up on that connection. I think that they have suffered from lack of consistency at the quarterback position. Teddy Bridgewater was too conservative last year, didn't do enough to move the needle. This year, Sam Darnold is a turnover machine and always has been, always will be. they haven't had what they've needed out of the quarterback position. Maybe they'll get that out of camp. We'll see. Got another super chat. This one is from Twin D. Thank you for the super chat, Twin D. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Greatly appreciate you. Twin D writes, shaking my head. We've hit rock bottom when this version of Cam Newton is thought to be our savior. Our fans, shaking my head. And that is the absolute worst scenario, is that next week Cam Newton shits all over us. They beat us. He looks impressive in doing so. Oh my God, we will not hear the end of it from our fan base. We have to hope that even if we don't win the game next week, we have to hope and pray. And I talked about it on Washington Football Nightly, so you'll get more of that. I don't want to have that take over this show, but we have to pray that even if they beat us, even in defeat, he doesn't look good, because if he does, we will never hear the end of it. Anyway, I digress. Let's see where we left off here. Sindeko says, we are not expecting 2015 Cam, but Cam at Seattle last year is the most we could expect. Cam had nothing last year. Yeah, he got benched dealing with COVID, and no receivers will do that. Those same receivers that you say he didn't have, he went to Seattle and threw for almost 400 yards with. So that doesn't jive with me when you tell me he didn't have any receivers, because those same ragtag bunch of guys that he took to Seattle and threw for 397 with was the same receivers he had after he had COVID. So I don't want to hear that shit. What I do acknowledge is that COVID is a beast, and it does change you. And he did go through that, and it did slow him down, and he wasn't the same guy when he came back. So I will acknowledge that. And he was playing exceptional football, and that Seattle game was prime Cam for his standards, and really any standard of his career in New England. But I don't want to hear any excuses. That's what I'm not looking for, that, because again, it's easy to say what he did when he was playing well. Don't leave that out when he wasn't playing well. All of a sudden now those receivers aren't good enough. Well, they were fine when he threw for 397 though. They were fine when he had that ridiculous 80-play drive to come back and beat the Jets on a Monday night. They were fine then. But they weren't good enough when he was getting benched and they were getting blown out by the 49ers or getting destroyed by, one of these other teams that he ended up getting benched in the game. They were fine then. Like, you can't pick and choose. Got another super chat. This one is from SLJ James. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I know this is about Cam and Odell right now, but did you check Sam Howell? If so, what do you think? No, I haven't checked Sam Howell out, but I've watched a lot of him. And he suffers from some of the things that you see from a lot of these young quarterbacks that don't like to give up on plays. I remember an interception, a game I watched him against, I want to say it was, I feel like it was UVA or it was Virginia Tech. And they were undefeated at the time. They were highly ranked. And they go, I want to say it was early in the season. It might have even been the first week of the season this year. And they go on the road to Blacksburg, and which is a hostile environment. And that defense smothered their offense. And you expected that. They lost a lot on the offense last year. They lost two of their receivers, both of their running backs. Like, it was a lot that they had to replace. And he didn't look good in that game, but he still had a chance late to take him down the field and win the game. And there's pressure on him. It's fourth down. He's got to do something. But, still, it's a terrible decision. He throws it up. It gets picked off. I think it was fourth down. Either way, he's one of those guys that he never thinks the play is over. And even though it's a bad play and the defense is won, he still thinks, I can magically make this go away and we can still win this rep. No, you can't. Just throw it out of bounds. Run it, tuck it and run, figure out a way to take a bad play and not make it worse. So, but there's still some redeeming qualities there with him as well. Just some things that I need to, again, all of this is about, watching the film and seeing how some of these players, look. So we're going to have to do that. And I'm going to start that process earlier. Like I said, I'm going to start that process next week for sure, especially after we get ramrodded by the Buccaneers this weekend. Mike Lowry writes, you watch any college QBs on the bye week? Don't like many QBs, and this isn't the best draft to take one, but we have no choice. With that said, Pickett is the guy for this offensive scheme. You've really been pushing the Cody Pickett narrative. I can't jump on board with you, not yet. I've watched him. there's some redeeming qualities with him. There's some things I like, but I don't love Cody Pickett. And I'm not going to sit here and act as if I do. I don't think I love any of these quarterbacks. Matt Corral is the closest thing that I've seen to an NFL quarterback. But again, he's like 6'1", and, you know, he's got a frame that doesn't suggest, you know, NFL superstar. But then again, Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray don't have, you know, tremendous NFL frames, but they have tremendous NFL gifts. Does Matt Corral have that? I think there is a little bit of that in him. He's more Baker Mayfield than, of course, he is Kyler Murray, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Emperor Meech, thank you for the comment, who writes, you summons me on Tuesday's show. One, you're doing 12 a.m. podcasts now, so I'm not looking for them. Okay, first of all, it wasn't a 12 a.m. podcast. Okay, stop your nonsense. And yes, that was a random time. Again, if you've been following me, I told you that home life isn't normal right now, which is fine. And I told you I don't try to really impart that on you guys. That's not your problem. But, you know, I get them out when I can. Anyway, he says, number two, I knew the outcome of the game and I was cool with it. You didn't have a choice to be anything but cool with it. You didn't have a choice. Okay? Here's the thing. I just want to see your face or hear from you in win or defeat, right? Like every time you guys lose, you're parading, you're excited, you're talking about Thanos this and the destruction of that. And then when you win, I don't see you. I don't hear from you. And I'm like, dude, I just need to know you're okay. Sometimes I just have to make sure that I don't have to call the authorities and put out an APB for you because you're in your corner of your house somewhere in the fetal position, distraught over the fact that it may not be over, that they might be bringing the entire group back together next year. Joe Judge, Dave Gettleman, and Daniel Jones, the trifecta. And you know what? If I've got anything to do with this, if our season continues trending in the way that it's trending right now, I'll make sure that, because I was done with this. I was ready to say, you know what? I'm sick of contributing to the keep Dave Gettleman at all cost fund. I was tired of donating to that. That's why we had to beat you in week number 2. But you know what? If our season continues going in the direction that it's going in, you know what? I'm going to reach in my pocket one final time and I'm going to donate. In week 17, I'm going to donate to the Keep Dave Gettleman at All Costs Fund. And you know what? I'll put a little extra in there for you for Joe Judge and Daniel Jones. Make sure that he has another one of these fantastic games he seems to only have when he plays us. So I'll make sure he throws for 322 yards, 29 of 34 for 322 yards and 3 touchdowns, just to make sure that he doesn't go anywhere this offseason, and make sure that Joe Judge and this group is feeling really good about themselves. So I'll donate a little extra for those two as well. Ding! Just so you know that we care, Emperor Meech. We care. And that's the only thing. That's why I summoned you. I care. I just need to make sure that you're okay, because I know how bad you want the destruction and demise of your organization so that you can watch the ashes, all in the rubble, all the way to the ground. Watch that big cloud of smoke, and then watch it clear, and then say, all right, let's build this thing back up the right way. I know you want it so bad. So when it doesn't go in your favor, I just need to make sure you're okay. That's all. That's it. Got another super chat. This one is from SLJ James. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for doubling up. Double up. My guy, SLJ James writes, I just want to hear that double up. Oh, I'll give it to you again. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. SLJ James. Really do appreciate you. Oh, I said Cody Pickett. I forgot. There's a Cody Pickett out there. It's not Cody Pickett. It's Kenny Pickett. Thank you for that. Because if you didn't correct me, I would have called him Cody Pickett 15 more times before I realized that it's Kenny Pickett, not Cody Pickett. Kyle, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Kyle, writes, hey, Lou, being a Washington football team fan, is Kirk Cousins worth $31 million a year? If not, should Vikes move on from him after his contract? The guy flops under pressure. That's his defect. That's the one thing that you have to know, that with Kirk Cousins, if the situation isn't perfectly constructed, and I'm talking about even not just the roster, I'm talking about in that moment, the situation has to be perfectly constructed for him to succeed, like it was against Carolina when he led them down the field in overtime and led them to the victory. It has to be perfectly constructed. Dalvin Cook had a monster game that week, and that helped. Everything has to be perfect. When Kirk Cousins feels the need to have to be the guy, I got to do everything, that's when shit goes haywire. Is he worth $31 million? No, but we could say that about 5 to 7 other quarterbacks that are going to be paid that here in the next 3 to 5 years. That's the going rate for a starting NFL quarterback that has any chops. Kirk Cousins has some chops. He's thrown for over 4,000 yards multiple times in his career, damn near threw for 5,000 yards in one season. He's a really good quarterback. He had one of his best years of his career last year with this Vikings team. Now, it didn't lead to wins, but that's because your kicking situation was awful and your defense was just as bad. So, again, Kirk Cousins is worth, money in this league. Is he worth $31 million? No, but guess what? There are a lot of quarterbacks that I don't think is worth that money, because you can't necessarily win a Super Bowl with them by putting the team on their back and hitching your wagon to them. They need everything around them to be, pristine. He's one of those quarterbacks, but that's the day and age that we live in. Is he worth $31 million? No, but should he be paid? Yeah, it's going to be paid. Bottom line is, you're not going to win what you want to win with him, more likely than not. Really, I'd say that your coaching staff is to blame as well. Like, Mike Zimmer isn't the greatest coach, and he makes too many mistakes for a guy that's been doing it as long as he's been doing it for. I think there's a lot going on in Minnesota that needs to be discussed, and decisions need to be made no matter how tough they are. I think they are too invested in Mike Zimmer. I like Mike a lot. I don't love him as a head coach, though. I love his demeanor. I love the structure that he instills in that organization, but I don't love his in-game adjustments. I don't love his in-game strategy. I don't love his clock management. He leaves a lot to be desired and a lot of meat on the bone week in and week out. So it's not just Kirk Cousins, but how often do you hear me say that? At some point, it is Kirk's fault. And there are games where you should win and he doesn't play well enough. And there are games where you are not going to win, but he seems to take you and pull you from the wreckage to lead you to a victory. So it goes both ways. At the end of the day, you probably need to move on from Kirk Cousins when it's all said and done. It didn't work, and you need to try a different experiment. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. We left off right here with Emperor Meech, who says, I actually thought the game was really iffy, but when they won, I was chilling. Looking at social media, I prefer it like this. I want all the false hope that they think they have. See, you walk a fine line when you do that, because what you want, and I've been through this before. See, you're going about it the wrong way, Emperor Meech. Let me impart a little bit of knowledge on you. Let me give you the game. Okay, because you haven't been through this. This is what you want. Let me tell you how you get what you want. There's no false hope when you want total and utter destruction. When you want change, the only way to get what you want is by total, pure, unadulterated failure. Okay, can't be any hopes getting up. It can't be, because that's what allowed Bruce Allen for years to keep talking about, we're close. 7-9, we're close. A few injuries don't happen here. A field goal not missed there. Oh, man, we would have won 9 games this year. We're close. And that's what Dave Gettleman can keep telling them. Hey, we close. We right there. Just give me another year. I can prove it to you. Look at all the moves I've made in the draft. These guys are good. Did you see Xavier McKinney, my second-round pick? 2 picks, a pick 6 to lead us to me. I'm telling you, we're getting this thing turned around. Just give me another year. You see how close we were? Give me one more year. No, you want change? You need this thing to crumble, where there is no way of possibly fixing it. We had to bottom out last year at 3-13. We had to bottom out. Have we won a couple of those games that were close in 2019? Not last year, excuse me. 2019. We had to bottom out in 2019. If we would have won, there were a lot of close games that year. Okay? A lot of close. You remember the one, the Chase Young Bowl? There were a lot of games we could have won in that season that we didn't. Thank God we didn't win. There were also a lot of ass whoopings, a lot of embarrassing ass whoopings that took place as well. And you need some of those, and you're not going to get them with your football team because you guys are too good defensively. Even though Patrick Graham is as vanilla as it gets, you got a lot of smart football players on your defense. So it's not going to ever, you're not going to look up and you're going to lose a game 38. You've done that already against the Rams. You don't have too many teams like that left on your schedule. You won't look up. You need more games like that Rams game. That's what's going to make the fans pissed off enough to say, you know what, enough's enough. And that's what's going to drive the Maras to do it as well. Is if you start week after week, you look up and you're losing by 24 again. That's not going to happen with your team. And that's why what you want, you ultimately probably aren't going to get. You need this thing to bottom out. No false hope. False hope only breeds more false hope. You want total despair. Because when you get there, that's when change has to happen. But when there's false hope, all you're leading to and begetting is more false hope. And that's not going to lead to what you ultimately want. Dregos. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Drego? Says, I really like Desmond Ridder. Well, I would love to say that makes two of us because I really like him too, but I don't. I don't like Desmond Ridder. And somebody had a great comment on one of my Washington shows where he kind of broke down all the quarterbacks. And he's like, yo, this is what I do. I watch football, college football. And he said, you know, Desmond Ridder reminds me of Dak Prescott. And I listened to what he had to say, and a lot of it made sense. I just don't agree with him because there's never been a point in Desmond Ridder's career where anyone ever said, damn, he looks like a Heisman Trophy candidate. Not one. Okay. Dak Prescott played in the SEC, had his Mississippi State Bulldogs ranked #1 in the nation, and was considered to be a Heisman Trophy candidate in his junior season before the bottom fell out like 8 games into that season. Okay. I never once felt that way about Desmond Ridder. And I've watched him up close and personal. I'm not impressed with this kid. He seems like another Teddy Bridgewater type. Game manager, would do all of the little things correct, can run with a little bit of mobility, but his mobility isn't top tier. It's not upper echelon. It's not game-changing or needle-moving. It's just enough to be functional that will keep a defense honest, like Teddy Bridgewater. If you ask me who his comp is in the league, I'll tell you it's Teddy Bridgewater. His numbers aren't going to jump out at you. He's not going to scare you. He's not a guy you have to game plan to stop. He's solid. I don't want solid as my quarterback because you don't win big in this league with solid at quarterback. So Desmond Ridder is a guy you take in the 4th round, and he's your backup. You know, your starter gets injured. He comes in, he plays well a couple of games, and you start to wonder, can he do this? And then he gets an opportunity and you realize, no, he can't. That's who Desmond Ridder is. That's what I think. I could be wrong. That's the feeling I get watching Desmond Ridder. Matthew, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Matthew, greatly appreciate you. Who writes, LT, we all know Taylor is a good priced 2 backup. If we draft a quarterback, do you think we have the staff to coach him up, or do we go in on veteran again? You know, it's a really interesting dynamic. We'll have a lot more time to discuss it as the season progresses. But that's one of the things I've struggled with is what do they do? I think if they draft a quarterback, then Taylor Heineke is your starter next year, and you just let the young fella learn until his time comes. Or if you spend a top tier pick on this guy, let's say you trade up to number 3 to get a quarterback, and he's one of these quarterbacks that you're like, look, this young fella's ready right now. I mean, we've been impressed with him. He's done everything we've asked of him. we think he can go right now, then you start him. I mean, generally when you draft a guy high in the first round, you really want that guy to start immediately, if at all possible. We saw the Bears this year. They went out and got a veteran like Andy Dalton. And Washington may decide, hey, let's just bring Ryan Fitzpatrick back. Let's just bring Fitzpatrick back and let him be the bridge quarterback. Or they could say, hey, let's just bring Taylor. But, Taylor's already on contract. Let's just start Taylor and we'll let the young fella continue to sit and learn. But I think they would more so want the veteran, the real veteran. Like Taylor is still young himself. I mean, how much can Taylor truly, teach a young quarterback? Taylor's young in NFL experience, himself. So I think they would more so want a Ryan Fitzpatrick, a guy that the young fella can really learn from. So it'll be interesting because I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick's playing another game this season. I think his season's done. Listening to Ron Rivera talk about his MRI and the results of it, I don't think he's playing again this season. We're not playing any meaningful games the remainder of the season. There's no reason to bring him back. But could Ryan Fitzpatrick say, you know what, I want another crack at this, in Washington? Like I got robbed of a season. I want another opportunity to see if I can do this. We'll see. Let's see where we left off. I got the two Emperor Meeches. Rich, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, I play Madden. He said, I'm playing Madden now, and I'm going crazy with the Rams. I can only imagine how ridiculous it would be on Madden, with the Rams. And again, I haven't picked up the sticks, to play a Madden or, a game like that in ages. But I could only imagine. I'm just thinking about when I played and some of the crazy teams that, you could assemble, but it was never anything like this. Like the Rams truly have a Pro Bowl roster. I could only imagine playing against them. Emperor Meech writes, I'll win in the end, so the false optimism they have is good because I want the delusional people to think they have a shot at the playoffs. This is my long-term war, my friend. Okay, well, if that's the way you want to do it, because it sounds like you want this war to end soon. Like, I feel like you've been waging this war for like the last 2-3 years. So, I mean, how much longer do you want this war to go on? Like, every now and again, you're getting small victories, right? You're winning some of these battles. Like, a month ago when the Rams came to New York and utterly destroyed you, that was a battle that you won. You felt good. The loss against, I want to say it was Kansas City. You were excited about that because it was close, but they still lost. I don't know if that was the Thanos game where you were, talking about, you were quoting Thanos and stuff. That was another battle won. It was on primetime television. Daniel Jones choked when he had an opportunity. Its defense choked when they had an opportunity. And it was on national television for everyone to see. That's great. But these are small battles that you're winning. And eventually they add up to you winning the war. But you also need enough of these battles being won that it ends up being you winning the war. Because all you're doing right now is you're prolonging the war by allowing the other side to have some small victories and some battles won. You weren't supposed to win the battle at Vegas, but you did. So now it's prolonging the war. You keep losing battles and eventually the war is over. But if you keep having this give and take, then those delusional fans are going to remain delusional. Like, this is the thing. And you're a smart enough guy, Emperor Meech. We've been talking for long enough, so I know you're a smart enough dude to understand this concept. Delusional people are delusional for a reason. They're delusional because there's hope. I told you the worst 4-letter word you can give a man is hope. Delusional fans always seek hope. And when you win a game like they did against the Raiders, that offers up hope. They're not going to stop being delusional because you get blown out here or you lose a close game there, but you win another game in 2 weeks. That's going to offer more hope. And it's going to hit the reset button. They're not going to stop being delusional because at the end of the season, you just came up one game short of making the postseason like you did last year. They're not going to stop being delusional. That's only going to further their delusional thoughts of grandeur, which is why you need total destruction. They need to be defeated. There can't be any hope. So I think you're going about this all wrong. But if you know the way you want to wage war, I'm not going to tell you how to do it. Knock yourself out. Good luck. You're going to need it. Hunker down. It could go a while. Hope you got a Snickers, because you're not yourself when the Giants are winning. Got another super chat. This one is from Emperor Meech. Thank you for the super chat, Emperor Meech. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Emperor Meech, writes, this is a long-term war, my friend. I seen the possibility of them winning, so it was meh. Mara's already salty and embarrassed. He's the target now, not Dave Gettleman. I can't stand Mara. You know that. This goes all the way back to the offseason of 2011 when they hit us with that that cap penalty. It was his bitch ass that pretty much rallied the troops amongst the other owners and said, Washington, they broke the unwritten rule that we had, this peace treaty that we had, that we weren't going to, try to manipulate this uncapped season. They broke it. We got to penalize them. Everybody else is like, they didn't do shit wrong. Mara's like, yes, they did. You have to see it. F him. He needs to be embarrassed. His bitch ass. But you know what? Anything that will torture his soul, I'm all for it. So if this team winning, then losing, then winning 2 games, then losing 3, and taking a step forward and taking 2 steps, if that's what's torturing him, I want more of it. Whatever I got to do to contribute to that, I'm all for it. I will join forces with you in going after Mara. Look, you can't get rid of your owner. I know firsthand. You can't get rid of a shit owner. Okay? So there's nothing you can do. You won't win that war. I can assure you of that. But you can win the war against Dave Gettleman. But you can win some small battles against Mara and company. But you're not going to win that war. We've been fighting it for 2 decades here in Washington. You're not going to win that one. John McDowell, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy John writes, hey Lou, what's up, John? I just want to say happy Veterans Day to the guys who do the real fighting so we can all enjoy our national game. To the guys and the gals, all right? To everyone out there who has ever served for this country. And I know not everyone feels the same about this country, and rightfully so. Everyone has their reasonings for feeling the way that they feel, but that doesn't take away from the sacrifices made by those who decide to make those sacrifices. And for that, I say thank you to all our veterans. And I've got tons of family members in the service. And to every veteran out there, shame on me for not acknowledging. I forgot. Look, when you do what I do, you forget some of these holidays. But Veterans Day is today, and I'm thank you for bringing that to the forefront, John McDowell. And thank you to each and every single member of the service out there. Happy Veterans Day to each and every single one of you out there, risking your well-being for ours. Thank you. Thank you again, John McDowell, for bringing that up into the forefront, because I definitely did forget. Rich says, let's get an update on your QB research so far. Who you like? Top 3, Willis, Pickett, Corral. But Willis, I believe, would be the best for us. I haven't done anything. Next week, I've already started all of my initial preliminary situations of sorting all the quarterbacks, trying to get the games that I want to watch. And so I haven't done all of the work, because remember, when you're talking quarterbacks, it's not just this year. You got to go back in the archives. So you got to go back to 2019 and 20 and 21. Like, it's a body of work with a quarterback. And you'd like to see improvement from that guy from year to year to year to year. So a lot of work to be done. It's not going to happen overnight. I'll let you guys know. Trust me, you'll know, when progress is being made. Derek B, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, I'm going to use your D-Hop I Told You So montage format for a Cam I Told You So montage. Again, hold your horses on that, okay? As we know, I know you've been you wanted Cam last year. Okay. You wanted Cam when all this foolishness was going on with the quarterback position. You wanted Cam last year. So you've been one of those that were out in front of this, and you doubled down this offseason. Okay, why not bring Cam in? Like, and at every turn, I've swatted you away like Rudy Gobert or Dikembe wagging the finger. Not in my house. Nah, we don't need him. We're good. He's washed. There's not a lot left. So we'll see if you're right. We'll see if you're right, Derek B. Mega 412 writes, am I by myself when I say that I don't want to draft a young QB? A rookie QB ain't the answer. I think you are by yourself. I don't think there's anyone in the fan base looking to, okay, I shouldn't say that. There's a small sector that you are a part of that doesn't want to draft a rookie quarterback. I don't want them to force drafting a rookie. If they don't love any of these rookies, then don't, right? Which I don't know if I'll love any of these guys, but something has to be done at the position. Clearly, something needs to be done. And if you're looking to win long-term in this league, the answer is at the quarterback position. So, yeah, there's that. JP says, Washington has to do something on offense this season. A-Rob from Chicago, that's not an option. Maybe Jimmy Graham, that's not an option. Any young quarterbacks we get in the draft needs weapons. Cough, cough. Matt Corral, cough. We are acquiring weapons. We're in the process of doing that. A lot of the guys that you just mentioned, they're not available. And honestly, Washington doesn't need to overpay for a damn near 30-year-old wide receiver. That's going in reverse. You're kind of stuck in the 2015 model of doing things. Ron isn't looking to add a, damn near 30-year-old receiver. He was looking to add Allen Robinson 2 years ago. Even last year, I think he was interested, had Robinson hit the market. This is another year older Allen Robinson, and you're going to pay him for not what he's done, but what he's going to do. He's not going to produce at the level that he has in the past into the future because he's getting older. That's the perception, at least. That could be definitely bucked. That trend could be bucked, but you don't want to do that. You're looking to pay for a guy that's 25, 26 going into the prime of his career. And Jimmy Graham's, they don't even use him in Chicago. What makes you think we need him here in Washington? Like, again, you're looking to try to take these old ass players for what? We're a young team. That's the direction we're going in, and that's the direction they should continue to go in. Mike Lowry says, people got to keep in mind the Rams gave away damn near all their draft picks as well. This is how they have to win moving forward. They've given away all of their first round picks. They haven't, I've already stated this, but just for the crowd that isn't aware of this, they've traded away all of their first round picks up until 2024. They don't have a first round pick until 2025. That's the next time they'll be able to draft, eligible to draft in the first round. They haven't made a first round selection since they traded up to draft Jared Goff, number 1 overall, back in 2016. Okay, that was the Wentz Goff draft in 2016. So they haven't had a first round pick since 16. They won't have one until 2025, which means there will be a 9-year stretch. I know some of you are doing the math. That's only 8 years, but you count the draft that they're in, the 17. So it's 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Then they won't draft until 2025. So that's 9 years since they will have a first round pick. And there's been, and of those 9 years, in those 8 in particular, but going into that, there's been probably 4 or 5 years where they didn't have a second round pick either. Like, it's not just the first rounder. The second round, they don't have a second round pick in this upcoming year's draft. There have been years where the Rams didn't start their draft until the 3rd round. This year, they won't start their draft until the 5th. They don't have a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. They have a 5th and a 7th. That's it. Anyway, let's see if I got any more super chats. I don't think I do, and I don't. So now let's get to our final segment of the show, and that's garbage time. So I want to first encourage anyone that's out there to hit the like button for more great content. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss a thing. And also um, hit that like button. Helps this channel grow exponentially. You can't begin to imagine how big it is when you hit that like button, when you comment, when you hit the notification bell. All of those things go into that YouTube algorithm and help this channel grow exponentially. So please, 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 if you really want to support the Louie T Network, hitting the like button is the smallest thing that you can do to help. You know, it's a big gesture. It's a small little thing, but it's a huge gesture. Just hitting that like button. So if you haven't hit it already, please do so. Let's talk about Thursday Night Football, and we don't need to spend a lot of time on this game. Every time I say that, we end up getting a crazy game and an even wackier outcome. But this isn't one of those UOs, as I like to call them, unexpected outcomes. It's the Ravens at the Dolphins on Thursday night. When they made this game, they thought the Dolphins were going to be good like they were last year, and they thought they were going to have a nice little primetime matchup slated for week number 10 on the docket. Well, the Dolphins are one of the worst teams in football. The Ravens, they haven't been great, but they find ways to win games. It hasn't always been pretty, but it's been gritty, and most importantly, it's been dubs. And so because of that, they're 7-2 right now, or excuse me, 6-2 are the Ravens heading into week number 10. And I just really feel like this Dolphins team, they've been immersed in so much rumors, you know, in that rumor mill this year with Deshaun Watson and, you know, their quarterback situation. And they never really gave themselves a chance, I feel like, because of them never shooting down any rumors. It kind of kept that team in limbo all season long. They've had injuries, obviously. Tua's been in and out of the lineup. He didn't play last week. Jacoby Brissett started, and he was awful, but they won because the team that they were playing was worse than them in the Texans. And so they've had this, you know, mumble jumble at quarterback, but really, I felt like they've been poorly coached this year, you know, especially on the offensive side of the football. Their offense has been pedestrian. They got all this speed. It was funny. They finally get William Fuller, the fifth back. He instantly breaks his finger and is out for, you know, a month or whatever. They've got Jalen Waddle. They refuse to run him anywhere near past 10 yards down the field and throw him the football. At one point, we heard Devontae Parker was potentially on the trading block. He didn't end up getting traded. It's just been a mess, and they never put the Deshaun Watson to Miami rumors away. Now, you could come out definitively and say, we're not trading for Watson. Tua's our guy, and leave it at that, and then turn around and trade for him. Guess what? Yeah, you're going to get crucified, you know, in the media for a day or two after, you know, you make the deal. But guess what? That's going to go away quickly because only thing anyone's going to want to talk about is, oh my God, the Dolphins pulled it off. But you could have put this shit to bed and you didn't. And so now this team has just been, you know, just swimming in all of this controversy all season long, whether they were or they weren't. Now that the trade deadline is gone, it's come and gone, and they haven't made a move. Maybe they can move forward. They're not a good football team right now. They've got talent, though. That's the thing that's frustrating. And they could be in this game. The Ravens have been really weird this season. You know, they, for the most part, have won the games they're supposed to, which is why I think they're going to win this game and win it handily. They've won the games they're supposed to win, but they've also had teams in ball games that they had no business allowing teams to be in ball games, like Detroit, for instance. And that's one of these types of games. And that's why I'm hesitant to say, oh, they're just going to stomp a mud hole in the Dolphins and walk it dry and then get out of there with a win. Because I watched them struggle for 4 quarters with the Lions, should have lost, somehow pulled a rabbit out of the hat at the very end and walk out of there with a 19-17 victory. So I could easily see them being lulled to sleep by the lowly Dolphins, coming out sleepwalking like they did against Indianapolis, who wasn't a good team when they played them on a Monday night, or was that? Yeah, it was a Monday night, you know, a few weeks ago, or come out sleepwalking like they did on you know, a random Sunday in, you know, late October and allow the Lions to almost beat them. But I could also see them coming in with laser-like focus and, you know, destroying this team like they did the Denver Broncos. but I don't see that happening. I just don't. So I think this game is closer than it needs to be, but the Ravens win this game. And I think they win this game convincingly on the scoreboard, but you never felt like, oh man, they are destroying them. I think they win this game 29 to 13. But this game, it's 21 to 13, late stages of the third quarter. You know what I'm saying? You know what? 22. It's 22 to 13, late stages of the third into the fourth, and then the Ravens score a touchdown, and that pretty much puts the game out of reach at 29 to 13, and that's the final score of this football game. So it's one of those games where it never felt like Miami was out of it, but it never felt like they were threatening the Ravens to win the game either. That's how I feel like it's going to go. But we will see. And I think that the Ravens will get me off to a 1-0 start, but that hasn't meant a damn thing this year, as I've gotten off to 1-0 starts almost every week except one. That's when Arizona lost to Green Bay. And my record this year is gone to hell in a handbasket. I can't pick them this year, but I'm not giving up. And I just want to apply some game pressure to Derek B and Nick at Night and some of these dudes that are doing work right. I just want to apply, because I think they're soft and they'll crumble under the pressure. But right now, they're kind of just they don't feel me on their neck. Like Derek B isn't afraid of Nick or BE or none of these guys, because they're not champions. They don't know what it's like. If I start applying some game pressure on him, I think he'll fold. But I'm nowhere close right now. He has nothing to worry about. He can't even see me in his rearview mirror right now. All right. And I deserve all of what I've gotten, because I've picked shit this year. So if it doesn't turn around here shortly, I got about a 3-week window where I've got to start chopping off some games on this lead. If I can't do that in the next 3 weeks, the deficit is insurmountable if I can't start chopping off some games here. I appreciate the league giving me an extra week. They must have known I was going to need 18 this year to get it done. I'm going to have to start to trim off some of these games, because your man is down double digits now. I'm down 10 games to the leader in the clubhouse, Derek B. At some point, I got to turn this thing around. In order for me to get into striking distance, I need to cut that lead down to 6 or less within the next 3 weeks. If I do that, now we got ourselves a ball game, and I'm coming for his ass. If this thing is 9 or 10, or he's extended it to even further by the next 3 weeks, it's over. I'm not coming back in. There will be a new winners and losers champ, a winner and losers champ this year. Somebody will be hoisting the belt, and that'll just drive me even more next year to kick some ass and take some names. But I want to make it 3-time champ, so I got work to do. Anyway, I think the Ravens will get me off to a 1-0 start, but I won't be alone. Like that's easy to do. Everybody will have the Ravens. And if the Ravens lose, everybody will take a loss. That's not hard. The hard ones are those games that make or break your week. And I haven't been getting the benefit of those this year, but it could turn just like that. We'll see. But anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T, here on the 222nd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Thank every single one of you for joining me today. This was a fun podcast. I really enjoyed myself. I thought it would be, with all the news breaking today. Cam Newton back to the Panthers. Odell Beckham Jr. Shame on you if you step to the old dirty Beckham. Odell Beckham Jr. going to the Rams. I knew this would be a fun, spirited podcast, and it was. Looking forward to more of these in the future. We'll be back tomorrow for our Friday podcast with my picks. They're not worth a damn. Who wants them anyway? But I'm still going to give them, and we'll see if I can dig myself up out of this hole that I've created for myself. It's not pretty, but if anybody's got the intestinal fortitude and the determination and the perseverance to come back and make this thing a ball game, you're looking at him. It's your man, Louie T. So got to get on my horse, though. Got to get on my horse. Anyway, you guys enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll be back later on tonight for those of you who will be around for overtime. Thursday night football. Ravens, Dolphins. I don't think it's going to be a great game, but I think the Dolphins will hang around. The Ravens have shown that they will allow inferior teams to hang around. And I won't be shocked if we go to the fourth quarter. I told you guys that 2 weeks ago. I said I told you guys what the score was going to be, and I was off by a point. I said, you're going to go into the fourth quarter of the Monday night game with the Chiefs and the Giants, and the score will be 13-10. That'll be the score, into the fourth quarter. The score was 14-10 going into the fourth quarter. So I'm telling you, this game is going to be 22-13, something like that going into the fourth quarter. Ravens will be up. You never will feel like the Dolphins will threaten them to win, but you'll feel like, wow, they're still hanging in. But they'll ultimately win this game by more than two scores, by 2 scores or more. 29-13 is my final prediction. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. You guys have a good one. Take care. I'll see you guys later.
LouieTeeNetwork.